One Another Music Talk Tuesday coming to you, and this one is going to be about my favorite music soundtrack composers. Now, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to address each composer to you, and I'm going to talk to you why they sort of resonate with me, and how I would describe sort of their style of approaching movie soundtracks. So without further ado, let's get started. The first person I'm going to be discussing is John Williams. Now, if you don't know who John Williams is, he's the composer for a lot of famous themes. If you know Star Wars, if you know Indiana Jones, if you know Jurassic Park, if you know E.T., he's done all of those. And what I find so fascinating about him is the fact that he takes something and he makes it very memorable. Each time I hear one of his themes, I automatically remember what the movie was, or what movie it's from, and maybe like what scene, or just something about his themes are just so memorable that you just get totally engrossed in kind of the nostalgia of his themes, because he does a lot of his themes are in particular a little bit older. So what I really like about his music is the fact that it's just so memorable and resonative onto that nostalgia that I have, and also just because of how it captures a lot of what the movie was trying to present. I think he tries to clasp a lot of what the movie is grounded on, and I think there's really no separation between them, because he just creates something to establish what the movie wants to make you feel like. So that's why I describe him as the memorable man. He presents memorable themes with memorable soundtracks, and just things that are just very resonative into our minds. So basically that's really all I can say about him, but he's really good in capturing sort of that nostalgia and making us feel closer again to that one particular movie that we saw maybe years back when we were a kid, or saw maybe just recently, that is kind of old, because again, he's not really done any new work. The last one I think he did was War Horse, which is also really nice as well. But I think a lot of his older ones are just very memorable. Like just Star Wars, you automatically know. Once you hear the theme, you know it's from Star Wars. If you listen to the E.T. theme, you know it's from E.T. I mean, it's just that crazy how he can make something just so memorable. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he just knows how to tie in with the movie really well and try to be part of the movie. So that's why I call him the memorable man, and I'll try to put links to all of the composers that I've mentioned. In particular, I'll pick the ones that I think I find very memorable and resonative. But as I continue on, I'm going to start talking about another composer by the name of Hans Zimmer. Now, Hans Zimmer is sort of different than John Williams. John Williams is more of the person who's trying to kind of emphasize the kind of nostalgia, and he tries to tighten the movie a lot with what is within his theme. With Hans Zimmer, he's more of an epic man. And what I mean by epic man is that he tries to build tension. He tries to build emotions over emotions. He kind of starts his themes maybe sometimes softer, and then they'll gradually go up, and then maybe go down a bit, and then up, and then down. He likes to keep that audience sort of engrossed in what he's presenting. So what he does with like movie soundtracks is he tries to make it kind of build and build and build until there's some sort of awe that you feel, and that awe is sort of just this epicness that is very resignative, not only to the movie, but can be resignative outside of the movie. So a lot of what he does is he kind of doesn't do the thing that John Williams does, where John Williams tries to tie in with the movie as much as possible. Hans Zimmer does capture the things going on within the movie, but you don't necessarily remember that it's from that movie. It's just sort of one of these things where you feel like it sort of just stands out on its own. And you don't feel that attachment sort of to the movie. Whereas with John Williams, I feel there's this more stronger attachment to the movie. But I think Hans, what he's trying to do is he's trying to capture the movie, but at the same time trying to capture something else within that. Whereas John Williams just sort of sticks with tying within the movie as much as he can. So that's, I think, what makes them different. It's just the fact that Hans Zimmer can just capture this sort of epic grandeur, that can be interpreted in other ways outside of the movie. Whereas John Williams just sort of kind of leaves things, you can interpret it in different ways. I mean, obviously it's music, but I feel like there's a stronger attachment with John Williams to the movie, whereas Hans Zimmer intends to make things just more grandeur and more resignative maybe onto us as a composer. Like, he could just make these themes by themselves and just sell soundtracks of his themes. He almost doesn't even really necessarily need the movie. It's almost like he's completely engrossed in his work, but at the same time he still captures the essence of what's going on in the movie. So he just does it so well that you can't help but get engrossed by him. He's done themes for The Dark Knight. He's done the soundtrack for The Last Samurai, the Davinci Code, and things like Inception as well. And he knows what he's doing. He knows how he can capture something and just make it grandeur, make it give it awe, and at the same time uplifting us into sort of, and engrossing us into this sort of awe and fascination with a particular emotion, or maybe like lifting up our fears or hopes, dreams, whatever they may be. And I think he does a really good job of establishing that, so that's why I call him the Epic Man. The next one I'm going to be talking about is a man by the name of Howard Shore. Now, I don't really know a lot of Howard Shore's work, but I do know that he did the 3 Lord of the Rings movies. And the reason why I really like Howard Shore's composition is because he captured a lot of the Lord of the Rings atmosphere. So that's why I'm going to call him the Atmosphere Man. He captures the world that Lord of the Rings sort of sets up. And I think he does this really well. He establishes, the feelings that one gets when they're maybe in the Shire, like you'll see in the beginning of the first Lord of the Rings movie, or when there's a really intense atmosphere, you'll see him capture that as well. And I don't just mean like atmosphere, like mood, but I also mean like setting. He does really try to capture sort of what it feels like to be in that particular setting at this certain amount of time. And I think that should be really praised for, and it must not be easy, especially when there's just so many different parts of this movie, and it's like making a soundtrack for practically, or making little themes for each setting that characters or people or sets are in, and trying to make it sound like it can be presentable to the public. And I think he just captured the essence of Lord of the Rings really well. And so that's why I have to mention him, even though I don't really know his other works. But I do know with this one, with this particular series, I think he really captured the atmosphere, giving everybody this sort of feeling and engrossness into the world. And he does that by being, by being epic, by having sort of a nostalgic feel as well. He sort of blends a lot of what Hans Zimmer and John Williams kind of do, but he blends it into a different sort of way and incorporates that into sort of his own style. That's sort of a representation of a lot of what Lord of the Rings was as a series. So for the most part, I just really, really like the soundtracks. I mean, I think they're just really, really good, and I think he should be recognized for his astounding work as a movie composer. Definitely worth looking into. So I think that's really all I can say about Howard Shore. And before I go on, I just want to mention like the whole thing with Hans Zimmer and John Williams is that with Hans Zimmer, again, he's sort of capturing epicness. John Williams is sort of capturing a sort of nostalgic feeling that encompasses a lot of what the movie entails. And Howard Shore's just, what I mean by a blend is that he doesn't go out all epic like Hans Zimmer does. And he doesn't really go completely in the nostalgic direction like John Williams. He just sort of captures both of them together, kind of blends them in, and in doing so creates this sort of atmosphere that is really resonative of the movie and can be applied outside of the movie as well. Not just what's going on in the movie, but within your own life, within your own travels and journeys and things like that. So that's why I think it's really cool and why I really, really, really like it. So that's all I think I can mention about him. The next one I'm going to talk about is Alan Menken. And Alan Menken is responsible for creating a lot of the Disney Renaissance soundtracks, like The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Pocahontas, just to name a few. And what I really like about him is that he's the magic man. And the reason why I think he's the magic man is just because he knows how to make things more magical. He knows how to kind of transport us into this magical, nostalgic type feeling. And he does that through being entertaining. Now you might notice that a magician, for one, needs to be entertaining and engross his audience into the whole awe of music and making it entertaining for people. And I think he really captures a lot of the entertainment value of a lot of things. For example, he knows how to capture like the romance of Kiss the Girl. He knows how to make things sort of slow and romantic like in Beauty and the Beast. He knows how to make things maybe a little bit more grand and epic like in The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and he knows how to make things sad like in Pocahontas. And it sort of just has this magical feel to it at the same time, and that's what makes it entertaining, and that's what makes it all the more powerful and emotional. So what I think he really captures is just a lot of the magic. Now, he's different, I think, than the other composers because he's dealing with more childlike types of feelings and more childlike nostalgia. So sort of that nostalgia is there in a way, like with John Williams' themes. They don't really go epic like Hans Zimmer. They're not intended to be sort of like that. They're not really so deep. And with Howard Shore, I think Alan Menken does try to capture the atmosphere, but at the same time, he doesn't really do it in the way Howard Shore does. I think he just stands out on his own as being sort of the entertainer, just someone that presents us something that's entertaining and fun or interesting and does it in an appropriate way. So basically, all I can say about him is that he's just the magic man. And then the last one I'm going to mention is a man by the name of Alan Silvestri. And I want to mention him too because I think the Forrest Gump theme that he did was really good. I really liked his Castaway soundtrack too. I think he does a lot of good work on the piano. I like how he really captures a lot of what life is through his themes. I really like the whole concept of how he incorporates a lot of the emotions that we go through, and it makes it sound like just very relatable. It doesn't do things like the other composers where it engrosses you into kind of this other world. Alan kind of just makes you sort of think about, your own kind of life. So that's why I call him the life man. He tries to capture things on more of a life scale, on a relatable scale, on something that is personal to our lives. So when you listen to maybe the Forrest Gump theme or Castaway, you'll notice that he sort of tries to capture that. And that's because those movies were sort of intended to be about things like life and how these ordinary people do extraordinary things or under extraordinary circumstances. So I think what he does is he does it just really well, and he makes it just really more relatable, and doesn't really try to go for a glamorized kind of way of approaching music. So that's really all I think I could say about him. And these are all the composers that I could mention. If you have any other composers that you like, feel free to suggest them, and I'd be more than happy to look them up. I'll be sure to put links to I'm going to try to put as much links as I can to their different works so you can listen to them and see if you can find a certain composer appealing. And I want to know what people's favorite one is. I mean, I have a really hard time because they're just so different. I mean, I think they just try to capture different things, but I would really like to know. So I think that's really all I can say in this review. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, I'm more than happy to answer them. And until next time, bye-bye.